Hi, welcome to the VU Meters YouTube channel. I'm your host Rich, and this is my entry to the 2024 Beatles vinyl tag. So let's jump into this and answer the first question. What is the Beatles album you have the most copies of? According to my Discogs, that's the Beatles White Album with 14 copies. Somewhat not surprising because I like to compare pressings, and I absolutely love the White Album. White Album is known as the White Album due to its iconic all-white cover. However, the official title of it is Beatles' self-titled album. Pulled a few copies you might find interesting. Some of these, in addition to that plain white cover, also had some white vinyl. So this is a 1978 UK pressing on white vinyl, which is highly regarded. Pulled a couple other ones you might find interesting. So this was a double LP, which came in a gatefold. But unlike most gatefolds where the albums come out here, early pressings of this were top loaders. We pull the album out of the top. Really clever name that they came up with. This one is a 2014 mono copy. One more to show. This is an original UK mono copy, in addition to being the top loader, having all the posters and all the goodies that came with it. These were also numbered. This is number 175,811. I don't know that that matters, other than the fact that typically lower numbered versions tend to sell for more money and be more valuable or sought after. I don't know that that actually makes a difference. So a lot of people think this album should have been trimmed down into one album. It is a double disc. It has like 30 tracks on it. I completely disagree. I love it as is. And even with those 30 tracks and some really popular songs like While My Guitar Gently Weeps, this is actually the only Beatles album that did not have any singles released. So I think the Beatles intended it in this format, hence them not releasing any singles out of it, which is the only Beatles album that has ever happened with. So that is a Beatles album I own the most pressings of, 14 pressings of Beatles self-titled, known as the White Album. Next up in the vinyl tag is to show a Beatles bootleg. So we're going to do a little yin and yang here. You just saw the White Album. My bootleg is the Beatles Black Album. The Black Album is from the Get Back sessions and some leaked tapes. Came out before Let It Be. A lot of tracks on this ended up on the Let It Be album. There's a couple of covers in here, and even a few songs that ended up on Beatles solo work, one of which being the song All Things Must Pass. And All Things Must Pass just happens to be my favorite Beatles solo album. So I have my OG copy here of All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. If you thought 2 discs was too many for the White Album, buckle up, because we got a 3-disc box set here. George's album, All Things Must Pass, definitely a classic. For me, it's up there with some of the Beatles' work. A lot of collaborations on this, including a couple with Bob Dylan on the tracks I'd Have You Anytime, and covering the Bob Dylan tune If Not For You, which featured on Bob's album, New Morning. So this is my favorite Beatles solo album, All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. So moving on, last Beatles album you bought, for me, another 2014 mono copy of Revolver. Love Revolver. I don't know if there's much more that could be said of it. Not only Revolver, but these 2014 mono repressings are highly regarded and sought after. Loved adding this one to the collection. Part of the reason why I added it to the collection is because I do like doing vinyl shootouts of albums that I love. I was shooting it out against this Japanese mono pressing on really cool red vinyl, and also comparing that to the mono mix in the 2022 box set. If that's something you'd be interested in seeing, a shootout between those 3 mono Revolver pressings, let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to shoot a video of that if that's what the people want. So moving on, show a Beatles album, non-US or non-UK. I went with Germany, more specifically Horzu. This is the Beatles album. Horzu is probably most well known for the Magical Mystery Tour pressing. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of that. I am on the lookout for it and would like to eventually get one. But I think the next best you can do for a Horzu pressing is the Beatles. So that is my non-US or UK Beatles album. So, show a Beatles single or LP. So I'm going to show this. And according to the analytics in YouTube, most of my audience is old enough to know what a floppy disk is. If you aren't, go ahead and Google it. But this is a Beatles singles and LP that was included inside of a book. The Complete Beatles US Records Price Guide has 2 tracks on it, Till There Was You and 3 Cool Cats. As you can tell, being in the back of the book, it is very flexible. They say you can play it. I honestly haven't tried playing it, but this was in a lot of Beatles 45s and singles that I bought, so I figured I would share this as my single because it is pretty unique, rare, and a little bit different to have a floppy single. So, next question. Show an album that features a Beatles cover song. Well, I'm going to try to be an overachiever here, and I'm going to show an entire album of Beatles cover songs. That is guitar virtuoso George Benson's The Other Side of Abbey Road. Full album of Beatles covers. In case you were wondering, the road George Benson is walking across there is East 53rd Street in Midtown Manhattan. Amazing album, full of Beatles covers by an amazing guitarist, George Benson. I am going to go with a bonus on this one too because I couldn't pick between these two, and I'm going to do an album that has a Beatles cover on it as well. That is Eddie Hazel's Games, Dames, and Guitar Thangs. I mean, just look at that cover. If you saw that cover, I would just buy it. Sight unseen. I did buy this early on when I got back into vinyl. I'm glad that I did because Eddie Hazel, probably most well known for his time with Parliament and his solo on Maggot Brain. This has become an extremely expensive and collectible record. I was actually kind of surprised when I looked it up. But a bonus one for this one, the Beatles cover on this is I Want You She So Heavy by Eddie Hazel on Games, Dames, and Guitar Thangs. Next, show an album where one of the Beatles guest starred on it. And I'm going to go with Cream. This is Best of Cream, copy that I have this on. The song is Badge, and the Beatle is George Harrison. So George collaborated with kind of longtime friend and collaborator Eric Clapton on this one with the song Badge. When I was looking this up, the reason that this is called Badge is because George Harrison wrote Bridge on the tapes. The song was untitled at the time. Eric Clapton thought that he wrote the word Badge, and the name Badge just stuck. So my album where a Beatle guest starred on it is with Cream, and the song is Badge, and the Beatle, George Harrison. So show a non-album Beatles-related item. Earlier in the video, you may have noticed the roll, and you can see a couple of these behind me, but these are my Beatles Richard Avedon posters. Really love these, cherish these. Had them framed, have them hanging down here in my listening room, but I'm going to go with a bonus one for the video to have something to hold up, and it is the Beatles Get Back book. So I got this when it first came out. The release of this coincided with the Peter Jackson documentary on Apple TV about the Beatles and the Get Back sessions. Really amazing book. Some great pictures in here. It is a little on the heavy side, and I love how detailed it gets, and I love just looking at the Beatles. When I think about the Beatles, I like to think about them like this, sitting around in a circle with all their instruments, just being creative. So, amazing non-album item, and this is the Beatles Get Back book. Show us your favorite Giles Martin Beatles remix. So I tried not to rethink this, and I also went from Let It Be and the Get Back sessions, the Let It Be remix. Really love this one. I remember when it first came out listening to it and thinking, wow, this may be the best I've ever heard this album sound. So I'm going to go with Let It Be. I do not have a copy of Let It Be Naked. That's one when I first got into vinyl, unlike the Eddie Hazel album, that I had in my hands, and I was like, I don't know if I really need this or I really want it. Hindsight being 2020, I wish I bought it because prices have gone up significantly since then, and maybe I'll get my hands on a copy of Let It Be Naked, but favorite Giles Martin remix thus far, Let It Be. So shout out to Beatles channel I'd like you to watch. Chances are people are already watching this because he has a ton of subscribers and views for good reason, but that's Andrew from Parlogram Auctions. I personally love that channel. I've learned a lot about the Beatles and Beatles pressing and Beatles collecting from watching Andrew's channel. I love the fact that he has the accent. I don't know that that makes him more credible than anybody else, but honestly it doesn't hurt having the accent and being a Beatles expert. And that is my entry to the 2024 Beatles Vinyl Tag. I want to give a shout out and thanks to Rachel from Rachel's Ghost for creating the Beatles Vinyl Tag and for helping promote my channel. And I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd enjoyed it, please drop a like or comment and subscribe. I'm Rich. This is the VU Meters YouTube channel. Bye.